Alright, this is an explainer video for my project, for my test question, for the app I built for the test question. Okay, the test question is build a simple application. The front end can either be on mobile or web, and there should be a back end that should allow user to log in, register, then user can add hobbies. The application will also send emails and SMS to users for each hobby they create. That means whenever a user creates a hobby, you will have to send an SMS notification and to the user's mobile number and email to the user's mail. Alright, so this is the app that I did. I name it Hubmeet. Just to have a name for the products. Alright, here is the login panel. Here you can log in to the app. I host the app on heroku. I'm sure we know about heroku, where we can host our applications. For more information, you can go to heroku. So I'm hosting my backend here, that's the API, and the front end, which is the main app itself, Hubmeet. Also, for the backend, I'm using the MongoDB, which is being hosted on mlab. Mlab is hosting. You can actually get one for free, not much data capacity though, but still enough for testing. Also, my front end I did using Vue. You can go to Vue. Vue is a JavaScript framework to design applications for the front end, and the back end I wrote with Sails. Yes, Sails. I wrote with Sails. Sails is very efficient and very fast for building RESTful APIs. It has a lot of actions already predefined, just like the HTTP actions. Also, it's very easy to integrate any database with Sails, so you can easily use MySQL, MongoDB, which I'm using here, and Sails also provide an internal file database. Okay, but I use the Mongo, and with Sails, very fast to actually do all that. So, alright, going back to the application. So here we want to register. I just want to show you a workflow of the application before I take us to the back end, and I'll bring us back to the front end on Vue. The back end is on Sails. Alright, okay, let's say I want to join without first putting some data. Okay, I have first name required. Okay, so I have to put my name. Let me have that as first name. Alright, the last name as, let me have Kayode. Email, let me have for labbyrock@gmail.com. And my password, it's password. It's not supposed to be known. Alright, so let's see what happens if this password is not well defined. Just see this. Okay, it's actually taking in my password like that. Alright, I need to check that. Alright, see, so this user has been created, and I have no hobby here, no hobby yet, because I've added no hobby here. It's just a new user. So let's check out my profile. Alright, I have my profile here. Okay, this is my first name, my last name, email, country, my phone number, my state, and so I would like to edit my mail because my mail was wrong when I put it in. Let me have .com, and I'll have to let me add my phone number. 2 3 4 0 right? Okay, I have some few states here. Lagos state. Let me country, sure, Nigeria. Gender, I'm obviously a male. Age, um 20 plus, let's have 20 there. All right, my first name, yes, my first name is Kayode. I have that as Balogun. All right, I have everything I want to update, so I can just save. So okay, it shows me a response that it have been successfully updated. That means my data has been updated, adding back. So I can just cancel this. So it's back. All this interface change from text box down to where you can only view, it's all done by view. Okay, now my hobby, I would like to add a new hobby, which is singing, because I obviously can sing. Okay, I save that. All right, that hobby has been added, so I can add another hobby. Let me have jogging. Okay, that can also be added. That was just added. Let me have coding. I've added that. All right, that is just added. So I click of this, it closes. So now these are my hobbies. These are actually loading from the back, from the MongoDB, which is being hosted on the MD, on the MLab. Yes, MongoDB. So it's saving directly to the Mongo. So here I can edit edit an hobby. Let me say jogging in the morning. Obviously, I want to jog in the afternoon. Update. Alright, it's updating. Okay, so that has been updated. Jogging the morning has been updated. So I can cancel, since I can't sing. Let me cancel the singing. Also, I can delete that. So we can see that it's actually working fine, and it's automatically loading back my view. This is all done using the vue.js. Alright, so I'm done. Okay, I think all the functionality is actually working perfectly. So let me just log out. Okay, so this is my mail, so I can log in back. Alright, so it's actually logging me in. So let me save that. Alright, look, when I put my mail at first, I was using .co. Let's check with this work. This obviously shouldn't work. Alright, run credentials, and I can click on that. That closes it. Alright, I want to show us the back end. Okay, the back end very fast. I want to be very fast there. Back end is on sales. So in sales, we can create APIs, which is very fast. Just create API, then name of the API. So I have to I created for my app. I'm having the user data and the hobby. That means for every user there's a particular hobby. So I'm mapping a single user to many hobbies. So many hobbies can be mapped to a single user. Yeah, and the single user have their username and all their data. Okay, first I'll want to go to the controller. Here is the controller. This is the user controller. Okay, I only have passport. Okay, what I'm actually using passport here is for the login. I want to log into the application, checking if my username and password is correct. So I'm sending a request, then I'm using passport. I'm using passport is an npm module that you can install using your npm, and then require in your application. For more, you can just go through passport to see how well and how powerful you can use that. So I'm authenticating my user. For this passport, we have to create a middleware. Here is a middleware here, passport.js. So passport.js, let me just put on my console. Passport.js here is, I'm using a local strategy. Local strategy means actually checking, it's actually specifying the way I'm actually validating the user, and I'm actually checking the user with the user email and the user password. Yeah, sure. The email here is because passport will only recognize it as username. but it's actually a mail when I'm requesting it from the DB. So I'm checking this user get the mail which I'm sending to this passport interface here as username, which is username. Then I'm checking if that mail actually exists, and I'm here if there's no error. If there's error, there's a callback on the error to return it back. And if there's no user, actually such user was not found, so I'm returning a message authentication field. I want to tell the user, okay, you don't exist in DB, to to give a level of security. And yeah, I'm using Bikrit. Bikrit is it's a node module that you can install with your npm using the npm install Bikrit node.js. And I'm also installing, as I'm sure, install my passport and my passport local strategy, which I'm using here. So Bikrit checks the password and the user password, because here in my user model, I want to show what I did in my user model. So let me check my user model. So this user model defines what a user should be like, because Sales is an MVC application, so it's built using the MVC architecture. So I'm having my model here describing what a user should look like. So a user should have email, password, the first name, the last name, the state, the country, the phone number, the age, the gender. And this to JSON is I'm deleting the user password before I send it to the back. So because I'm returning a JSON, before I return the JSON, I want to delete the password from returning it. And before I save any password, I'm encrypting it using the bcrypt. Yeah, this before create is actually a method that runs before I actually create a new user in my DB. So here I'm encrypting the user password and I'm hashing it using a particular sort. So I'm hashing it and returning it back to the user password. The hash is what I'm returning back. So that's why my user controller, I have to use the bcrypt to check here. That's why I have to use the bcrypt to compare again, because bcrypt first has to decrypt the user password, then check with the current password just sent to the back before I can authenticate that the user is right or if the user is wrong. So there we have it. If this fails, that shows that the user is not yet logged in. But if all successful, that means if there's no response at the end, if there's no error response, that means if there's no response, that shows us that the user failed to be authenticated. But if there's a response coming back, then the user is authenticated successfully. All this I'm using passport. So this is just the middleware. Let me come back to my user model. So I'm done with the user model. So connection, I'm using the mongo server. That's to show where I'm getting my data from. So this is also this is why I require the bcrypt to use for encrypting and decrypting. Actually, I'm using it to decrypt the password just to compare, but in the model, I'm actually encrypting the password with that bcrypt. So alright, that's all about the user. So because Sales provides me with a waterline, it has some predefined HTTP action API, so I can easily access my sales sales resource with the API directly, just using some HTTP actions like the get, the require, the create, put. So using the HTTP actions, I can usually get my users credentials and all that. So that's why I'm not having much function in my user controller here. So I'm only having the login because I'm actually doing some extra work here. That's why I'm actually having the login. So other 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 actions that I will need to perform, like the update which is built, the the whole other I'm actually using the given the predefined APIs in my sales. So my hobby model, okay, I need to show us using the okay. So here, if I'm looking for okay here, I can easily run this and get my user. So I can easily use these are the actions I can use get a particular user, post to create, which I've already using the login to override that. I'm already I didn't override that, so I'm still creating that. But on create, I have to first encrypt the password. So put is just like you are editing a particular a particular record, a particular data of a record in the DB. So this is the delete, and other HTTP actions are provided in the sailsjs using the RESTful API. So hobby back to my hobby. So here in my hobby, I only have this is the hobby model. This is the hobby model. From my model here, the hobby model, I'm having my user ID. So for every hobby, I'm mapping since I'm mapping many users. I'm mapping a single user. Sorry, I'm mapping a single user to many hobbies. So this is what I'm using to identify. I'm using the user ID to identify which of the users owns this particular hobby. So a many a single user ID can be in multiple record for the hobby table. So I can have many hobbies mapped to a single user. So to JSON also, when I'm returning back the hobby, any hobby, I want to make sure that I'm not returning back the user ID. So that's why I'm deleting the user ID here. So I want to show the hobby controller. So in my hobby controller, I because I need to send mail and SMS after I've created a user hobby, and I also did for delete hobby. So I have to override the the action provided by sales. So here is the get hobby function. So for me to get a particular hobby for a particular user, so here if I want to get the hobby for a particular user, I'm sending this in, I'm getting the user ID. So I'm find in the hobby any hobby with this particular user ID, I'm returning them back as my JSON and here I'm creating an hobby. So this create method is actually overriding the default sales action sales that was provided to us by sales. So here I'm still using the create, I'm overriding it. So here I create the user. So if there is any error, I return back from this method and I send back the error. But if I'm able to find that user in the DB, that means I'm getting the user in the DB. That means this user actually exists just by using the user ID. So if there's an error while finding the user, sure, I have to turn back the error. But I if I was able to get the user, that means that user exists in the DB, and so I can now add the user hobby to my hobby orbit database. So here I prepare a message that congrats, I get the hobby that was sent, the hobby that was just about to be added. Then I said congrats, this particular hobby was just added to your hobby list. And I'm using my mail service. Yes, I am having in my service folder here, I'm having my mail service and my SMS service. So in my SMS service here, I'm having my Trello account. I'm having my Trello account credentials here, which the SID and the token are being are put in the environment variables, which is on heroku. So this will be accessed on the server. So this exports this module, this JavaScript 6. So this is exporting the module. It's giving me a method send SMS, which I can use to send SMS to the just added user. So this send SMS receives a a variable, it receives an argument vars, and from it is an object. I'm expecting an object, so I get the phone number from that. I get the message that I need to send. So in my hobby controller, whenever I'm using the SMS service, I send in an object. Which is the subject. What will be the this for the mail? What will be this will be for the mail? What's the subject of the mail? Let me show the mail service. So here's the mail service. Here my sparkpost credentials. Sorry, my sparkpost credentials. First, I have to require it. Then I put in my key. So here I'm also expecting is I'm exporting this particular method, send email. This module the export is actually JavaScript syntax. So I am exposing this send email to every part of the code that requires it. So I have my send email method, which is expecting a vars, which is an object from this. I get the subject, I get the message, I get the email. So this is sent, which also has a callback for error to check if it has been sent or if an error was caught. So using that service here, I'm sending the object. So I'm having the email, which is user.mail from the user I got from my DB. That's the user mail. Then the subject of the email is a string here, which is the new hobby added, and that's an object. So this is a message in JavaScript 6. I can just easily put message like that, and that will reference as message. So since this message is a variable, I can easily put it here for both the key and the value in this particular object, and this object will be used here, and I'm getting this object that was returned the mail, the message, and the subject to compose the message to send to the bag. So and if because when the user is being created, the user is not I didn't make it compulsory for the user to put in their phone number. So if a user has not yet edit their phone number, to prevent error, I won't send the SMS. So this SMS will only be sent if the user phone number is available. So as I said, if user.phone not empty, then I should be able to send my SMS. So also my SMS is also taking in an object which contains the phone number, and which is the user.phone. That's the one of the user properties, and the message which I already composed here. Alright, that's how I'm creating a user. So that's how I'm creating an hobby. So whenever I'm deleting an hobby, I'm also using the hobby.destroy, which is another method provided by sales. So here same way I did for my create, but here I search. I first destroy the hobby, creating this user.id. Then I find that particular user ID. First I delete that ID in the DB. Then I search for the owner of the since this ID is in the DB, surely there will be a user for it. So I check for the user of the hobby. Then after checking for the user of the hobby, if there's surely a error, there shouldn't be an error because deleting and the particular hobby, there surely be a user for that hobby. So here I have my message. Oops, this particular hobby was just deleted from the hobby list. Then I use the mail service to send it, and also if the user phone number is available, I send my SMS and I return back that particular hobby that was deleted. So that's how I'm deleting and creating while sending SMS using my mail service here and my SMS service here. Okay, I think that's all we're using for the back. Basically the controller and the model, that's basically all we're using, and the services that are provided, and the middleware passport.js, and a few other configuration I did. Yes, I did some other configuration like in my connection.js. Yes, my connection.js, I'm showing my mongodb. So here's the URL. This is pointing directly to the db URL. That's the mongo URL that I'm hosting here. When you host your db here, you are given a URL that you can use to link, that can use to connect with your db. So that's the URL I'm providing here for my user mongo service, which I'm using in my controllers. If you look at this controller in my where is it, my models, I'm using it here. I'm also using it in my hobby model also. So these are all connecting to the db hosted on the mongodb hosted there. Yes, all right. So the other options here that you can use the Postgres and the MySQL options also available. So this is when you are using your disk, by which I actually commented as I'll be using the Mongo, and the course.js here. All routes means I'm expecting requests from other other resource from other origins, because it was actually not allowing me to request from other ports. It was actually having issue, but when I changed this to true, it was actually okay. So that's all basically that I did at the back end, just to create the user, to delete the user, to create a user. And okay, proc file. Okay, this is needed when I want to host my sales API on heroku. That's when I need my proc file. All right, I think that's basically all for my back end. So I would like to move to the view. This is the view. This is the view code. This is the view code. It's loading. Okay, so the view code, that's so from the alright, login again. This is the wrong combination. Yes, because I've not. So I want to just briefly show the interface, so that when I'm describing the code, it's very easy. So this login, it takes me back to login, it takes me back to register. While changing the URL, if you notice the URL, it also changes to login. All right, let me log in here. Let's come. Let me log in. All right, my code should be up. Okay, so this is the view application. This is the view application. I have my web config, where I have every necessary information about my web pack. I have my package registering everything I've installed, every module I've installed, every dependency, and other information about the application is here. So let me start from my index.html. Try taking a while to load this index.html. Okay, it's waiting for it to load. I think I already opened too much thing this night. Okay, it's taking quite a bit of time to open my index.html. Okay, let me close up some applications to free. Let me close up my sales back to free up some more space. Git ignore. You should be ignored by showing. Okay, I think my it's taking quite a while to. It's really taking quite a while to load my. Uh, okay, let me just add show a new waiting on my laptop. Let me add that to my hobby because I have to have that as an hobby now. Okay, keep waiting. Alright, it's finally back. Oh, that hobby has been added. Okay, I have it. It's on my laptop. Alright, here is my index.html page. So, this is my. I'm using Bootstrap. There's actually a Bootstrap module that could have been used. There's a Bootstrap module that could have been, but here I'm using the normal Bootstrap, so I have to include using the CDN links. This is jQuery because Bootstrap 4 actually requires jQuery to work efficiently. So here I have my basic my initial because this index.html is the only HTML page I have, so I'm just loading components, interpolating components into this particular page, making it a single page application. So it starts with going to my main.js. So okay, I have some imports here. I'm importing vue. Yes, vue should have been installed. These are node modules that must have been installed. Then I'm importing them in my vue route, which is used for routing, the vue resources, which is used for connection with the HTTP. This is my view sessions, which I use to control my sessions at the front. This is my view modal, which I use to display my modal. Then this is my app. I'm importing my app also. Yes, my app. This is the app. So in my app is it's like the backbone where everything is being loaded, and in my template here, every dot view file we have a template tag, the script, and the style. So here this style is actually the style needed for most of my pages to work. That's why I'm having everything all in here that can apply across every page. So here I'm having a router view, which means I'm actually I'm actually expecting this particular content to change according to my route. I'm expecting this particular tag will hold a component that will change with my route. So as I'm routing, there will be a change as I'm having that. So going to my main app. So yes, this route is it's I'll say explain. It's actually working with my resource. So whenever I want to make database calls, because what I notice that for every this is actually the link to my sales API, the backend where I'm hosting on Heroku. So I noticed that for a lot of time I'm actually going to the back I'm using this URL. So Vue provides a root a root a root a root variable, so that all my HTTP access using the view resource, here, the view resource module, it will take this root, then append my actions to it, and append the actions I need, and the remaining routes I'll be adding. I'll show that later on. So here I'm having my router, my router object, yes, and it's in the mode history. So that I will have the hash behind my, in between my page. So I'm having it in the between my URL link, so that I'm having the history. Let me to keep the history right. So, and I'm creating a new view object here, and the element which I'll be interpolating this particular component on, and this is the app component. So I register this app in my components, then the route using, that's the route, because this is the main view of this is the main view instance. This is the main view instance created from the view object. So this instance is running every other view instance that I'll be using and component that I'll be using. This is the main one. That's I'm having it on the app and ID, which is actually on the HTML here. So here I'll be basically being interpolating my application here to make it a single page app. So my main, okay, this is my components, then I'm rendering the app component there, and my app component simply is only having this route where I can interpolate a lot of other things. I can interpolate different components, because I want to have the landing page, and from the landing page I want to move to my dashboard where the user can work on. So on the landing page, so with this route view, I can actually put my landing page here, my landing page template, which has the register and the login components. Okay, let me open the in my component folder. I have all my components here. So this initial page is actually another folder, and I have member. This initial page contains all components that I will be needing for my front, for my landing page, that is for my register and login. Here I'm having the initial frame, the login, and the register. So these are components that I will need even before I log in. So immediately I load my application, the initial frame loads first, because in my app I'm having this here, the route view, which is being interpolated by this particular initial frame. If you take a look at the router.js, yes, I'm having my initial frame.view here, and therefore on my part, when I'm on the home page, this is just the empty part to show. I could have just put a slash there. So I'm having my home page component, which I import from this view page, the initial frame, which is here. So my initial frame is actually a frame in my landing page that I used to host my login and register components. So here is the initial frame. Just see it as like the landing page, which has children components, the register component, and the login component. These are the children components of my initial frame, which is the landing page. So I have the nav bar here. Let me log out. So this is the initial component, having the nav bar here, having the nav bar there. So, and I'm having a container free. These are bootstrap. I'm using my bootstrap. So in my container, I'm having a component. Yes, this is where actually change a component, and this component is holding and binding the current view to it. So the current view actually tells me what particular component should be inside this component. And this switch view, I'm actually listening to an event to switch the view from login to register, from register to login. So in the script here, I import the login and register, the import and register, sorry for that, the import and register components. I import them in. So when this loads at first, the initial component there is the app log. That's why whenever I go here, at first I'm having the login first, because that's the initial component taking up that view, taking up this component, the initial component in my initial frame. That means the landing page, the first component that is to show here is the login. So I have the login here. So this variable, so its current view is here. Its current view is what component should be in this component. This is a component tag provided by vue.js. So I put in my app login, and my app login is actually registered in my component here, my component in my component value here. The app login and the app register both are different components. So the switch method, which I'm listening for on this component here, on the component there, changes my application. So here it checks the current view. If the current view is actually the register view, it changes it to the login, and vice versa. If it's in the login, it changes to register. So that's what I'm using at this point, where I click register, it changes it. I click login, it changes it. That's what I'm actually using there. So what actually happens, we'll soon see. So this before create, this is a method provided by provided by provided by view before creating. That is before the component itself is created. I check if if there's a session of existing already. That means the user already logs in. That means the user is logged in already. So I directly relay the user I directly route the user to the dashboard /orbit. So I immediately log the user in. And before mount, this means before I mount my component, before I mount the whole component created, before I mount it on this initial frame, I check my route. If I am in the register route, then I check my current view. If it's if so this can be explained here. When I go directly to register, the view app automatically knows that it looks at the URL, take the last one, and sees, okay, I'm on the register page. So before it mounts it actually changes it to the register. So that's what's happening there. Before I mount it, I check, okay, is the URL pointing to the register, because they are not actually different pages. So it's not easy for the server or the route to know that this is the particular address I'm asking for. So because I'm doing all this on the front end, I'm actually checking what that URL is saying. Then I change my components according to that route. So that's I'm having this before mount. So this is my login component. This is actually one of the children components. So the login component, same way, I just have the HTML in my templates tag showing the forms that I need to enter. So this is message response, just showing, it's just to display my message, it's just to display message to the users, and it's only will show if my response is true. That's why I'm having the vif, and the vif is here in my data, because I'm returning this data. Using a data, it's supposed to be an object, but because of this is not the initial view instance, only the initial view instance has the access to create data as an object. So I'm having a function that actually returns an object, so there won't be clash in data many data, because it's actually object is actually pointing to a reference, actually showing a reference. So we want to change the reference of the data. That's why we're actually having this as a function, that actually returns a particular object. So this object contains our data. So I'm having the credential data. So here in the response data, which is currently false, that means I have the response to display to the user at first. That's why this will show. But whenever there's a need to show, like when there's an error and I want to display, that's why I'm having this. So this is what is displaying that. So on click of that, it actually closes. And the reason why it closes is because I already have an on click event here, that whenever you click on it, it should close. And when it closes, on that close, there's a method here for that, and it actually changes the response variable to false, and view automatically updates my view immediately that data is changing. So this is what I this is this is one of the powerful thing we enjoy in view, that as data changes, view automatically changes the view along with the data change. So here, so all these other are only just are just methods, are just variables that I use to display in my in my in my response to the user message, and what kind of alert is it, a success alert or a a a fail alert. So even this fail is actually red, but when the success is actually green, so that's what the response alert is there for. So here in my this this part is actually listening to an on click, which switches the view, and this register. And what this does is I actually fires the switch view. That means I'm changing from my register view to my login view, or from my login to my register. And what this does is it emits here. I actually change the route, and I emit an event, and that event, because I'm in the child component, this is where I come. This is the way, because component to component communication in view is actually not that straightforward. So what I do is I emit an event which is actually listened to by the parent event here on this component. So I'm listening to that event, this switch view. So whenever I click the event on the child component, the parent components actually any component listening to that event actually act on it, and this switch will automatically come here and change the view. So that's how I'm able to change the different components on the login. So here I'm using the route, using my using my view resource, and that's the http, and I'm using the post action on it. I'm actually logging this user in, going to my sales, which I've explained at first. So I go there, I check if it's successful, then I start the session, I set the user ID in the session which I use across the application, then I push to the route, which automatically routes me to the other page. Fine. And this I used to get the credentials that was entered in the form, because I'm already binding to my form here. I'm already binding to my form, which is a v model. So I'm able to get, and this stream is actually removing white spaces, so I'm binding to my model. So whatever the user enter in the user input, in the username input or the password input, automatically is being saved in my data here. That's it, this object. And so that's the way I'm able to get it and send to the back. So that's, and these are I get it and I send it to the back here, and this is actually checking out for the error. So this is basically what I'm doing on the front end here for my login. Then going to my register quickly, basically most of the things are the same. So here I'm binding to my input. Here I'm having that response that I can use to respond to the user. If there's a particular response, this response will show, and I check what kind of alert is it. Is it the fail or a success? Then the kind of message. I'm interpolating all this. This is actually very cool with view. So I'm also having my data here, the first name, the last name, the email and password, which I have to send it back. Error log, this is actually providing me with the ability to actually give the user a particular tells me that's the first name. Then next tells me the email is wrong, so I have to specify a correct mail. So all this, I'm actually stacking the particular error from the top down, stacking to reduce error log. So the current error is what I display coming from up down, so I'm able to tell the user, okay, this is not entered. Then the user correct that, okay, this is not entered. Just try to put the user through every mistake. That's I'm displaying the latest error which I put, which I'm the first error, yes, the first error which I've tagged in my error log. And this is a 404 error coming from the back. That means email does not exist. Email already exists. So if the email exists, I won't add to the user. And in my sales application, I already declared that I made my email unique. So if sales it checks for in my DB and see that, okay, this email already exists, it returns an error which is a 400 error. That's why I'm actually checking for this error to tell the user that, okay, this email already exists. And if I'm unable to move at all, that means probably there's no internet connection to move to the back. And this is fine. This for a correct registration being done. Yes. Then I'm just response the text. I'm actually trying to show the user that, okay, your message, you have been actually been fully registered. Then immediately I create the session, then I log the user in, then I use the same router to push, then I actually log the user into their dashboard. So that's basically all for the front, all for the landing page. So when the user logs in my route, let me open my route. In my route, when I'm routing the user down to dashboard.ob, that's I'm like, so it's taking the user to the home page, and the home page is actually this component. That's members then home.view, and this is the directory. In this members directory, I have the home view. So the home view is like it's just like the way I explained this here, the initial page here. So the home view is actually holding, it's actually like a parent component for my hobby and my profile, component, so that I'm able to switch in between them, just like in this case. So this is my this whole view here is my home component. Then when I'm clicking this, I'm actually changing the child component here. The child components, all these are the child components which I'm actually changing while clicking on this and changing the URL. So this is the parent component actually communicating to the child component. So for a child to communicate to a parent component, it has to emit an event which the parent component will actually see and operate on. But in this case, the parent component is directly speaking to the child component here. So what I'm doing here is I have, okay, my home.view. So I have the nav bar, which is the nav bar that I extend all down. Actually, the reason I'm having this here is I wanted to search for different users for my DB. I wanted to use this to search for different users in my DB, to be able to display users in my DB. And here this is the home view. So this is the current title. That means, what am I working with? Am I working on the hobby page? Am I working on the hobby component or the profile component? This title view is being shown here. This is the title view, which I'm actually interpolating on change of my components. So here also I'm having a component here, and the is view, the comment, this I'm binding to this. I'm telling, okay, for this particular component, this component tag, this is the component I want to interpolate into it. current, the default is hobby, so immediately the user logs in, the initial component that should be there is the hobby component. And here I'm having this keep alive is actually to ensure that whatever I'm doing on the particular component, when I leave that component and move to another component, I still want to retain my information. Here when I'm trying to edit, let's say I close this, I delete this, I come to this component, and if I change back to the component, it's actually still in that particular state I left it. So that's because I'm using the keep alive. So that keep alive ensures that this component is not destroyed but is kept and retained back so when I switch in between the components, I come back, I'm still having that my the state I left it. So that's why I'm having the keep alive, because I want my component to be kept in case a user is working on a particular component and leaves another component. I want the user to be able to come back and use and continue their current state. So I import the two components here. So this is actually two methods that actually change the view, that actually change the current state I am. If I'm on the profile page, I want the current hobby view to be false. I want to push to my route. I want to change my current view title to profile. I want my current view component to be the profile component, which is stated up. So all these are changing the data, which automatically changes the view. And here I'm also having the before mount. Before I mount, I'm checking, okay, is user if the user is actually moving straight into the profile. If I'm reloading this, that means I'm moving straight to the profile. There's no way my server would have known this, because this is not actually a real URL link. So I check for the last the last route, the route part here, and I check that and use that to change my view. So whenever I check the view and I say, okay, I'm using profile, okay, then if it's profile, then I have to use the profile page. But if it is hobby, I don't need to change, because the default is hobby, so it will still be left there as hobby. So when you log out, I destroy the session, and the routes I actually link it back to the front. So that's all I'm actually doing in the home view. So the home view is actually changing view between the hobby components and the profile component and the hobby one. Let me quickly show you the hobby component. So the hobby component, I have my star that's actually working all through. If I don't want it to work through, I can just copy down, but I'm using it all in the whole application. So here, fine, here I'm having my modal. This for my hobby, the modal that I use to create hobby, to delete hobby, or to edit hobby. I'm actually using the same modal. So I'm only using these variables to actually change the state of the modal. I'm using this to change the state of the modal. So the current hobby that's been added. Okay, let me just go through. When I want to edit an hobby, first the modal is being displayed. When the modal is being displayed, I already bind to the input in that modal. I bind to the input that's how I'm having the current hobby. So that means either the hobby you are actually putting in currently, maybe when you are creating a new hobby, or the hobby you want to edit to. Yes, I have them here. That's the current hobby, and this is only when I want to delete. I don't want you to edit before you delete, so I only show this in in a in, in a in a in a label. So this, if it's an edit mode, that means if it's in a delete mode, so if you want to delete, I actually display only this label to show you. But if you want to delete, or if you want to edit, if you want to edit or you want to create a new one, and this is showing that not edit, that means you are not in a delete mode. Not delete mode, that means I'm either editing or creating a new one. So I'm using a input form. But I'm not in if I'm in a delete mode, I want to delete, I'll just display with a label the particular hobby you want to delete. And that's what you will see here happening in my hobby. Whenever I want to whenever I want to delete an hobby, so I'm only using a label to display it. But if I want to edit, I'm using an input box. Or if I want to create a new one, I'm using the same input box. So that input box is actually having this current hobby dot hobby, which is also here too. So on edit, delete, or adding a new hobby, I'm actually sending that current hobby to the back. This is your current hobby, this is your current hobby, which is an object, this is your current hobby dot hobby. So this, when I'm adding a new hobby, I'm using the sales API, RESTful API. So this is the action I'm putting, that's I'm editing that particular current hobby that you put in your input box. Here I'm deleting that particular hobby there using the user ID also. Here I'm adding a new hobby using the user ID which I got from my, and how do I get my user ID? Because I already saved it in my session, so I'm getting it here. I'm getting my user ID. This is a self-invoking function that actually returns the value of the get of the session for me and put it in this variable. So it's actually updated, and each time I'm getting the user ID, I'm actually running the function to get me my user ID, my current user ID, in case I'm changed, probably logged out or changed to a new user. So that's the delete. So when I'm getting a new hobby, I use the post I get hobbies for a particular user, and when the hobbies are down in here, when I've put them up, I change my hobbies variable to the response here. Hobbies variable here, stated here. So this is the hobby variable, which immediately changes my view here, that for each of the hobby, I'm actually creating an li element that is actually looping through, and I'm creating an a click event on both buttons with the index of that particular hobby. So whenever I click on delete or edit model, I'm actually returning the index back to them. This index, I call it delete hobby here. So I'm actually using the user ID to delete that. I'm actually checking, okay, which particular element do you click on, which particular one do you click on. That's why I'm using that index there. To actually check which particular element, which particular one did you click on, Sure, that's why I'm having this. And when I'm in an edit mode, this is just, I use this to, this is the index here, which I use to find the particular one you've clicked on from all my hobbies, all my current hobby. I check, okay, which one did you click on, I get the data of that one and edit it, or I get the data and I delete it. So that's why I'm using that index there. So show response, same one that I used in my login logout. Then close, when I'm closing the response, then this is just to close my modal. And this activated means whenever I'm just creating a new component. That means whenever I move to this new component, I want to automatically update my view. So what this code is saying is, if I already loaded the hobbies already, there's no need to go to the back again to reload it. But if there's no hobby there for the first time, I have to go to the back to check it. So that's why I'm actually using that code. So, and after every update, I'm actually reloading my hobby from the back. So yeah, after every edit, I'm getting the hobbies. So this will automatically update the hobbies and reload the front. So after every delete, I'm also getting my hobbies to update, So without any of this, I don't need to go to the back because I know it's already there. So I'm just only checking if there's any hobby there, then I I just don't worry about it. But if there's no ob there, that means the value in my this.obs array is actually 0. I go to the back to get it. That's what I'm doing there. So I think that's basically the little thing I'm doing there. And in profile component my profile components okay, let me just go through it. In my template, I'm having the same response to display to the user what's really happening. So here in my profile component, I'm having a label box and an input box. The reason why I'm having that is because I want to, whenever you click on edit, I want the labels to go off and leave the input so I can edit them and send them to the back. So that's what I'm actually using this tool. So the input will only show when I'm in the view mode. So it's very logical that when I'm in the view mode, I only want to use the label to view them. And when I'm in the edit mode, which is not the view mode, I show only my inputs. So that's why the inputs are switching. So you notice whenever I click on, show the method, whenever I switch my view, I'm only changing this the view mode to the opposite of the view mode. So if I'm in the view mode before, I change to the opposite of the non-view mode, and every other action tied to the view mode, like these buttons will only show when I'm not in the view mode. That's the cancel and the save button will only show when I'm not in the view mode. When I'm in the view mode, the edit button shows only, which can be seen at the front end here. So when I'm not in the edit mode, only one button is showing, and these are labels. But immediately I click on edit, it changes this, all this begin to show, because view automatically sees that okay, this data already changed, so it changes the view, and these two buttons show the cancel and the save, which I can just cancel and move back, or I can edit to Accra and have my Ghana here, and I save. Yes, and because there will be a response, this will show, and if I click on it, that's a close event which also closes that one. So that's basically what I'm doing. So the props, I'm not actually using my props here. Yes, I get a way to use it to communicate to the pen, but I felt I could do it another way. So the same way, I'm just using the view resource to get my, the reason why I'm using this shorter route is because I already declared in my main.js my route here, so I don't need to start telling it the full part. It automatically checks my route and updates the full part and goes to the back. So this is the close. So I that's basically all and to my input, I already bind to them. If you see here, I already bind to them user.age. So immediately I'm changing all that. It's actually updating all my user data. In my user here. I didn't put because it's an update, so I can actually add anything up here. Just I'm adding